Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're still on trigonometry and this time it's a recap of the last three lessons. The last three lessons we've looked at sine, cos and tan and how you calculate an angle with them, but we did individual lessons. Today we're going to mix it all together. So we're going to look at each question, we need to decide which of the rules we're going to use, and then we need to use the skills we've learned in the previous lessons to allow ourselves to do that. So the first thing I've done is I've reminded us of the three rules on this page. So sine x is the opposite over the hypotenuse, cos x is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and tan x is the opposite over the adjacent. There is a very well-known acronym which is used to help people remember the rule. So sine, opposite over hypotenuse, SOH. Cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, CAH. Tan is opposite over adjacent, TOA. SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA is a very well known and very well remembered way of remembering the rules. Okay, so we're going to use this to help us identify which rule we're going to do. So if we look at the first question, we're going to have a right angle triangle. The angle I'm trying to calculate is down here, and I'm going to say that this side is 10 centimetres and this side here is 23 centimetres. As always in these questions, the first thing we need to do is label our sides. So opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. Remember the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle box. So what two sides do we know? We know the opposite side and the adjacent side. So up in my rule, I'm going to tick the O, wherever I see it, because we've got the opposite, and I'm going to tick the A, wherever I see it. Only one of the rules has two ticks. That is tan. So tan is the rule we're going to use to answer this question. So I write down the rule at the side. So tan x is opposite over adjacent. I fill in the two numbers. Opposite is 10, adjacent is 23. So tan x equals 10 over 23. And now I need to get what x is. So I do the opposite of tan, which is inverse tan. Remember, when you're calculating the size of an angle, it's always inverse and then tan, sine or cos depending on what we're using, and then x is going to equal, so I go to my calculator. Remember, if you've got a scientific calculator you can just type that in as you see it using the second function button. If you are using your phone, okay, so it's going to be 10 divided by 23, and then I want to inverse tan that. So currently the tan button is just normal tan, so I need to hit second function and that will change it, and then I hit tan minus 1, so it's going to be 23.5 rounded to one decimal place. We'll try another one. So another right angle triangle. This time I want to calculate this angle over here, and I'm going to say that this side is 12 centimetres and this side is 21 centimetres, and we're going to find the size of the angle x. Make that a bit bigger. Right, first things first, again label the sides. Opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. I'm going to write SOHCAHTOA out again, and I'm going to tick which sides we've got. So we've got A, so I tick all the A's. We've got H, so I tick all the H's. And again, only one rule has two ticks. This time it is cos, so I'm going to use cos. So I write out the rule. Cos x is adjacent over hypotenuse. I fill in the information that I know from the question. So the adjacent side is 12, the hypotenuse is 21, and then this time I'm going to try and figure out the angle x by doing inverse cos 12 over 21. Go to my calculator. So it's going to be 12 divided by 21, it equals, and then I want to inverse cos this one, so 55.2 if I'm rounding properly. And then one more example. See if I can squeeze it in down here. So here's my right angle triangle. I want to figure out this angle over here. and I'm going to tell you that this side is 3 centimetres and this side is 8 centimetres. First things first, remember, we've got to label our sides. So I'm standing here, so there's my opposite, there's my hypotenuse, there's my adjacent. I'm going to write out SOHCAHTOA. I'm going to tick the sides that we've got. So I've got the opposite side, so I tick all the O's. I've got the hypotenuse, so I tick the H's. And again, only one of the rules has 2 ticks. This time it is sine. So I'm going to write out this rule for sine. So sine x is opposite over hypotenuse. Fill in the 2 numbers. So the opposite is 3, hypotenuse is 8, and then I'm going to inverse sine 3 over 8, go to my calculator, flip it around so it's sideways, so it's going to be 3 divided by 8, and I want to sine minus 1, so 22.0, I can just squeeze it in there. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 questions to try. Same as usual. So this one, I'm going to give you, that's going to be x. So hit pause and then go and try that question. Okay. Fill in the sides. So opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. Write out SOHCAHTOA. Tick the sides that you've got. So I've got the opposite side, so I tick all the O's. I've got the adjacent side, so I tick the A's. And only one of the rules has 2 ticks. It is tan. So I write out the rule, tan x, opposite over adjacent. I fill in the numbers. Tan x is going to equal, the opposite is 10, the adjacent is 7, and then x is going to equal inverse tan 10 over 7. Remember, when we're calculating the angle, we always use inverse tan, sine, cos. Get my calculator, so it's going to be 10 divided by 7, and then I want to inverse tan, 55.0. Now there's an important point here. This bit here. Some people get into the habit of always putting the little number on top. That is not how we do it. It's got to be following the rule. It's opposite over adjacent. So this time the opposite was 10, so it's 10 over 7. A lot of the time it does work out to be the small number that is on top, but you need to follow the rule properly. You can't just take a shortcut, because you could end up getting it wrong, especially when you're using tan. Right, number 2. That side's 8, that side's 11. I want you to calculate the size of that angle there. So pause the video. If you need to rewind it and look at what I did a minute ago, on you go. If not, just crack on and do the question now. So starting with the sides, labeling them. So there's opposite, there's hypotenuse, there's adjacent. Write out SOHCAHTOA. Tick the sides that we have. So we've got the adjacent side, so I tick the A's. We've got the hypotenuse, so I tick the H's. And again, only one of the rules has 2 ticks. This time it is cos. So I write out the rule. So cos x is going to equal adjacent over hypotenuse. I fill in the information. Cos x is going to equal 8 over 11. I want to get the size of x, so I need to do the inverse cos of 8 over 11. I go to my calculator, flip it around, so I want 8 divided by 11, and then I want to inverse cos, 43.3. One more question for you. You can probably guess which rule this is going to be, but let's just see if you can work it out. So I'm going to go this triangle here, there's my right angle, that's going to be x. I'm going to tell you that that's 12, I'm going to tell you that that's 20, and I want you to calculate the size of x. Hit pause, give it a go just now. Okay, label the sides, so I'm standing at the x, so there's my opposite. Hypotenuse is opposite the right angle box, and that one's the adjacent. Write out SOHCAHTOA. tick the sides that we have. So we've got the opposite side, we know that's 12, so I tick the O's. We know the hypotenuse is 20, so I tick the H's. And again, we know one of the rules has 2 ticks. And it comes as no surprise that the one I haven't done yet, it's going to be sine. So sine x is opposite over hypotenuse. Fill in the information. The opposite is 12, the hypotenuse is 20. So sine x is going to be 12 over 20. So x is going to equal inverse sine 12 over 20. Go to my calculator. Divided by 20, and then I want to sine minus 1 or inverse sine, so 36.86, so the 6 rounds the 8 up to the 9, so the answer is 36.9. And that is how you calculate the size of an angle using sine, cos or tan.